We did end up buying the house in 1977. We moved in on Halloween, which I kind of, in hindsight, think this is kind of all strange. But and so I had just begun to hear different things in the middle of the night, and I thought, well, But as it continued, like I heard someone saying "mummy," and would hear a dog barking. We didn't have a dog, and it was the middle of the night. So, but I really wasn't, too impressed by it until my fourth child was born. And she came home, and then things started to change considerably. She definitely was talking to someone at different times. She said it was a little boy. She was only 2 years old. She was very adamant that she was talking to a little boy and that he was there. And I was really confused because all of the relatives were very adamant there was never any little boys in this house, but it really was beginning to be that I knew there was a spirit of a little boy here, because she was really becoming so obsessed with this that she really wouldn't be in the house alone or go room to room. Even as a small child, it was always she was looking directly at things and then turning her head away very quickly. And she had a full-fledged conversation one night in particular, I remember, and I had gone into the bedroom. She'd fallen asleep, and she would never sleep unless I held her, and then after she was asleep, I would transfer her over. It was becoming, though, really concerning because I was really worried about if she, in fact, thought she was seeing these things and why. So we saw a physician. He said everything was fine. So one night, I woke up in the middle of the night and heard her having a conversation, and I said, "Who are you talking to?" And she pointed right to the corner and said, "I'm talking to that little boy right there. And he told me I can't play baseball, and I told him I could." And this is a 2-year-old. And I had said to her, "I really believe there was a boy in this house." And she said, "Jane, I would know. There was no boys in that house. I would know." And I said, "Okay," because I respected, So I decided that I would take a little road trip. So I went down, and I walked at that time with my dogs down to the Immaculate Conception Cemetery. And as a child, we were there quite a bit. My brother had passed very, very young. And my mother would go up on Sundays, and that's kind of what you would do. You'd go up, and you pay your specs, and kind of do different things. So I knew where the Deneen, their plot was, because my mother said, "There's the Deneens, there's the McMahons." It's like, okay, I know they're here. But anyway, so I knew where they were, and I went and I looked on the back of the headstone, because that's how convinced I was. And there on the back of the headstone was. Actually, there was 3 little boys that had lived and passed in the house, and it was James, Vincent, and Joseph. And I could not believe it. And they all had lived in between, the dates were they'd been girls born, boys, it wasn't like there was 3 and I did a little research on it, and I had their death certificates as well as their birth certificates, and I was just kind of curious as to see, what did happen, and it was pretty much nondescript, which is indicative of those times. Dehydration, it could be anything. I just thought it was very strange, though, that no one knew that they had been there, but I guess, probably pretty much that was where my story was leading me, is that they wanted to be acknowledged. I did see him briefly once. I laid down, and very briefly I looked into the hallway, and I saw a very, very tiny little boy, and he had like the old sailor suit on and the bowl cut, and then he was gone. And I said, okay, I didn't really see that. I had spoken to my next door neighbor at one point too, Joe Galvin, and his brother, and had said, "Were there ever any boys here?" And he said, "Nope, there wasn't." And later on he came back to me about maybe 3 months later, and he said, "You know what, Jane, you're absolutely right. There was a little boy here." And he said, "But I don't remember. I was so tiny, but I do remember Mrs. Deneen coming out and saying to me one day that, we lost our Joseph. So I'm glad that you're here and you can be the little boy that we miss and be in our neighborhood. So, so there's a lot more to the story, but they're like, to me, little guardian angels. That's what I believe. And they wanted to.